Welcome to It's the Groove, the podcast that takes you under the wrapper to uncover the hidden connections in the music we love. Hi, I'm Dave, your saxologist, for today's episode entitled Saxy Songs with Kelly and Dave, Part 2. If you haven't already listened to Part 1, we suggest that you go back and do that. There's some very interesting information, and you'll find out a little bit about how Dave ended up coming back to the band with the saxophone after the band director instructed him to get a trombone. You'll find out some of our favorite Saxy songs, including ones by Sade, Carly Simon, Kenny Loggins, Jerry Rafferty, and Duran Duran. But today we have episode number 2 or volume 2. The song that played in the intro to our session today is by Jennifer Warnes, and it's called Big Noise, New York. It's a song written specifically for her by Donald Fagen of Steely Dan fame, and it features a tasty tenor solo by Larry Williams, who is a highly recorded ace sax player with tons of hits to his credit. No, this song didn't make our Saxy Songs list, but it could have, and therein lies the dilemma. There are so many songs in the It's the Groove catalog that feature a sax. When we first started compiling the list, Kelly gave me marching orders to come up with the top 10. After much soul-searching, agonizing, and teeth-grinding, I had to report that I got it down to 25. So we figured we'd need to add a second volume. And even still, there are so many songs like Big Noise New York that had to be left off the list. In fact, I just heard this song the other day and felt I had to include it in some way. The reality is, just when we think we have them all, we find another. And I'm sure our listeners will feel we left off some of their favorites. The songs we will feature today aren't worse than the ones we did last time, just different. So, to recap the songs from episode 1, here's Kelly.
Okay, we had Smooth Operator by Sade with Stuart Matthewman on tenor sax. Black Cow by Steely Dan featuring Tom Scott. Small World Parts 1 and 2 by Huey Lewis and the News with Stan Getz on tenor. Just the Way You Are by Billy Joel with Phil Woods on alto. Careless Whisper by George Michael with Steve Gregory on tenor. Rio by Duran Duran featuring Andy Hamilton on sax. You Belong to Me by Carly Simon with David Sanborn on alto sax. Man Eater by Hall & Oates with Charles Deschamps on tenor sax. Who's Right, Who's Wrong by Kenny Loggins with Michael Brecker on tenor sax. Taking It to the Streets by the Doobie Brothers with Andrew Love handling the sax solo. Baker Street by Jerry Rafferty with Raphael Ravenscroft on the solo. Just the Two of Us by Bill Withers featuring Grover Washington Jr. on tenor sax.
Thank you, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
We start off volume 2 then with Al Jarreau's We're in This Love Together featuring Lon Price. This solo was nominated by friend of the program, Phil Wood. Not that Phil Woods, but Phil Wood, our friend and musical mentor. This song was originally written for the Larson Fightin' Band, but was mistakenly given to Al Jarreau. Producer Jay Graydon astutely recognized the potential to create a pop hit for Jarreau, who was previously recognized mainly for his contributions to the jazz genre. This was Al Jarreau's first and biggest pop hit, reaching number 6 on the adult contemporary chart. Lon Price recorded with a wide variety of artists, from Barbra Streisand and Elton John to Pink and REO Speedwagon. So here's We're in This Love Together. At It's the Groove, we try really hard to avoid having multiple songs on the list from the same band or saxophonist, but there are just some songs crying out for inclusion. Steely Dan was always a band that heavily featured sax players, perhaps because Donald Fagen is a recovering tenor player. The band also attracted some of the very best studio cats. One of those was Pete Chrisley, who handled the tenor sax solo on Deacon Blues. He was brought back for their FM track. This is often referred to as the 8th song on the Asia album, but it was really a soundtrack song written for the movie of the same title and didn't appear on any Steely Dan albums except for their greatest hits discs. FM was written to be included in a forgettable B-list movie, but the track is terrific. For a detailed technical discussion on the song, refer to the book Asia in the 33 and a third series, written by friend of the program, Don Breithaupt. The tenor solo is amazingly tasty, and on the B side, the song is reconfigured to feature a lengthy 50-bar solo on the outro. For this session, we're just going to share the solo on the A side. Here's FM. Phil Wood also suggested we include the Earth, Wind, and Fire hit After the Love Has Gone from Kelly's favorite Earth, Wind, and Fire album, I Am. This amazing song was one of the highest charting songs ever done by the band, and it was written by David Foster, Jay Graydon, and Bill Champlin. According to band founder and bassist Verdine White, it was one of the hardest songs the bands had to record, taking multiple sessions over several days to get it right. The sax solo on this song is performed by Earth, Wind, and Fire member Don Myrick. When we started this project, I knew we were going to need to have at least one song from Average White Band. The Average White Band was an interesting group coming from Scotland and at the same time sharing some of the funkiest vibes from back in the 70s. The song we chose is called Pick Up the Pieces, and this song reached #1 on the Hot 100 chart, the best performer ever for the band. The iconic sax riff at the beginning was something all of us sax players learned to play, and I'm including this as well for Molly Duncan's tenor sax solo. Here's Pick Up the Pieces. Next up, we have the song Jazz Man by Carole King. This song reached number 2 on the charts. The solo is by Tom Scott, who we featured in the last episode on Steely Dan's Black Cow. Here's Jazz Man by Carole King. The next song, we have Whitney Houston's cover of Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You. This was from the soundtrack of the movie The Bodyguard. This song became a mega hit for Whitney, reaching the number 1 spot and staying there for a then record 14 weeks. The song was produced by the hitmaker David Foster and won Grammy for Record of the Year as well as Best Female Pop Vocal Performance. The sax solo is performed by Kirk Whalum. Next is the Phil Collins hit One More Night. This is another chart-topping number, reaching number 1 on the charts. It was only knocked out of the number 1 spot by We Are the World. The solo is performed by Earth, Wind & Fire member Don Myrick and was described as, quote, so smooth that I can't believe it's not butter, end quote, by music critic Keegan Hamilton. Here's Phil Collins and Don Myrick with One More Night. David Bowie's Young Americans is up next. Many people may not realize, but David Bowie himself was a saxophonist. But this song begins with a tasty alto sax riff from David Sanborn. The song itself represented a departure for Bowie and embraced an R&B feel and the Philly soul movement. In fact, it was even recorded in Philadelphia. It became Bowie's second highest charting song. The solo by David Sanborn, although brief, is an essential part of the song, and Sanborn continues with his alto sax playing throughout the rest of the song, enhancing this wonderful number. Longtime supporter of It's the Groove, Storm of Quiet suggested we include Spyro Gyra and Jay Beckenstein. Here's Morning Dance. This song reached number 1 on the adult contemporary chart. It's essential smooth jazz and jazz fusion. I remember this song from when I was very young, and I couldn't stop listening because of the terrific sax part. And Jay Beckenstein himself is just a wonderful player who's played on a number of other albums beside his work with Spyro Gyra. Here's Morning Dance. A longtime favorite of mine as a recovering tenor sax player is the cover of the song Europa by Argentine tenor sax great Gato Barbieri. Europa was originally written and performed by Carlos Santana. Barbieri's sax imparts an incredibly emotional feel for this song. This is one that I remember getting the album just for this one song. But Gato Barbieri back in the mid-70s had some other really terrific music. So here's Europa by Gato Barbieri. Okay, Kelly has been really patient with me for the last episode and a half. So it's time for her to share her favorites. Kelly, what do you have?
Well, the first episode, we did share a couple of favorites of mine, right? Careless Whisper and Rio. But we're also going to share this time Never Tear Us Apart from INXS. And I really wasn't sure this would make it because the solo is kind of short, right? Never Tear Us Apart was the fourth single from INXS's Kick album. It was written by keyboardist Andrew Ferris. He composed the music and Michael Hutchins wrote the lyrics. And Kurt Pengilly, who also is the guitarist for INXS, played the saxophone. Here's Never Tear Us Apart. Next, we have Cowboys and Angels by George Michael. If you've listened to our Happy Birthday George Michael episode, we talked about this song on that episode. It's from his Listen Without Prejudice album. And the song, it's over 7 minutes. The sax solo is from Andy Hamilton. Here's Cowboys and Angels.
Thanks, Kelly. That was wonderful. Love that good sax work. Well, we know we've left off a lot of great sax players and great sax songs. We've already been scolded for not including a couple, one being the title track of the Steely Dan album Asia, with jazz great Wayne Shorter on the solo. Yes, thank you, Faith, for reminding us that we needed to include this one. Secondly, Jungle Land by Bruce Springsteen with Clarence Clements on sax. And Spandau Ballet's True with Steve Norman on sax. There are a couple of noted saxophonists we could not include either, such as smooth jazz legends Boney James and Kenny G, and Roxy Music's Andy McKay. Likewise, we really wanted to get Tower of Power with saxophonists Emilio Castillo and Doc Kupka on the list. And what about Chicago's founder and saxman Walt Perizader? Finally, we couldn't get Steely Dan's other sax guys, including Cornelius Bumpus, Chris Potter, Walt Weitzkopf, and Roger Rosenberg. I guess, Kelly, maybe we're going to need to do a volume 3. What do you think?
We'll have to have a meeting on that.
All right. Uh-oh, guys. Anyway, let us know your favorite emissions. And if they're ITG worthy, maybe we'll be able to convince Kelly to queue up a 3rd edition. As always, we value your input. Please subscribe, like, and comment. We really love your feedback. Any closing thoughts, Kelly?
Thank you very much for listening, and we would love to hear from you. Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find us on Twitter or X at It's the Groove Pod. You can also find us on, of course, YouTube at It's the Groove Podcast, and just visit our website if you want to send us your comments there too. You can send it there at itsthegroove.com.
Thanks, Kelly, and stay tuned for more It's the Groove in December. We're really excited to have a special guest join us for a two-part review and celebration of the music of the invisible man of pop music, Rod Temperton. So look forward to that. As always, remember, it's not the beat, it's the groove, and thanks for listening.